Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this media availability. I'm Scott Lundy, and I'll be acting as the coordinator for today's event. We're going to bring the people in now, and we'll get going here right away. So speaking to you today, we'll have a wildfire information officer from the Government of Alberta, Leslie Lazinski, followed by Parks Canada Superintendent Evan Thomas. He will be followed by the MD of Pincher Creek's Emergency Services Structural Fires, Chief David Cox, who in turn will be followed by the MD of Pincher Creek, Reeve Brian Hammond. Brian will be followed by the Town of Pincher Creek's Mayor, Don Andenberg. And finally, we'll have Carson County Reeve Jim Bester speak at the podium. Now, my apologies before we get going. There is no technical ability to take questions through the media line, so my apologies for that. However, you can follow up afterward by calling the Provincial Operations Centre media line, which is at 780-644-4863. That number again is 780-644-4863. All right, with that, I'll call upon Wildfire Information Officer Leslie Lazinski.
Thank you very much. We're fortunate this evening that the incident commander from the Incident Command Post at Waterton was able to make it in time for this evening's session. So I'd like to introduce to you Scott Elliott, and he's going to speak with you.
Thanks. Good evening, everybody. My name's Scott Elliott, like Leslie said. So I was invited down, so I thought I'd just give a little bit of context as to what's been going on with the fire there through Waterton National Park over the last couple of days. Last night, we obviously experienced some extreme fire behavior due to high winds and extremely dry conditions. The fire behavior we saw was created high intensity, high rates of spread, rapidly spreading fire. Fortunately, when the fire was moving quickly through the park towards the Waterton town site, the preparation work that had been done by all the firefighting resources out there and the pre-planning and the work that was done led to a successful operation there in the town site of Waterton. The firefighters who were on scene as the fire approached performed excellent work, and the town site was saved. There was some damage to some structures throughout the town there, but the overall preparation and work that was done was excellent there last night under some very challenging conditions. Unfortunately, due to the rapid spread of the fire, it did extend out past the park boundary and did damage other property out in the rangelands there. We are working with our municipal partners to secure that portion of the fire as well, and we had some good operations today, working helicopters and air tankers to try and contain the spread of the fire, and we had a pretty successful day out there. Lots of resources doing some really good work.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. You'll have a chance to ask your questions following the round table that we've set up here for you. So just a moment, please. Okay, would you like to come through, guys? I can grab a seat. Evan, you're next.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Evan Thomas. I'm the superintendent for Waterton Lakes National Park. We recognize that this is an exceptionally difficult period for those impacted by the Keno wildfire, including community members from Waterton, local businesses, Parks Canada team members, as well as residents of neighboring communities. Parks Canada would like to thank all those involved in battling the fire. Fire crews have been working tirelessly throughout the day, to safeguard key infrastructure and resources in Waterton Lakes National Park. Parks Canada's priority is the safety of residents, staff, and fire crews, and the protection of infrastructure and the community of Waterton. Regrettably, despite our best efforts, some infrastructure in the park has been lost, including the visitor center. We'll continue to work diligently to protect the town site of Waterton and are committed to providing regular updates as they become available. On September 11th, the Keno wildfire demonstrated extraordinary fire behavior. The fire advanced significantly throughout the night, which presented limited options for fire management. Unified Command was well prepared for the forecasted fire behavior throughout the night, and structural fire crews remained in the town site to protect facilities. Extensive fire protection measures were effective in safeguarding the majority of infrastructure and facilities in the community and at the Prince of Wales Hotel. Unified Command is currently working on identifying and actioning additional risks from the fire. A detailed assessment will be completed and shared when operationally feasible. Parks Canada understands that this is a very difficult situation, and our thoughts and prayers are with those affected by the fire. As I mentioned earlier, the safety of residents, staff, and fire crews, and the protection of infrastructure in the community of Waterton are Parks Canada's priorities. Parks Canada and fire management partners continue to actively manage the Keno fire. Thank you.
Our next speaker is from the MD of Pincher Creek, Chief David Cox.
Sorry, I got to get this a little bit taller. Good evening. As introduced, my name is David Cox, Chief of Pincher Creek Emergency Services. We've been working on pre-planning just because of the fire that's been ongoing in BC, impacting Waterton Park and potentially the MD of Pincher Creek for days. We called into action last night, and initially our response was to evacuate people in front of the fire within the MD of Pincher Creek, and then we started to do some operational work throughout the day. As morning, we became part of the unified command that was already established between Alberta Agriculture and Forestry and Parks Canada, and that, I think, was a very successful and smart move. We're continuing to do that as we go, and you've already heard the messages about fire behavior from Ag and Forestry, so we're very much on the same page on that and continue to work on the fire.
Next, we'll have Reeve Brian Hammond from the Municipal District of Pincher Creek say a few words.
Good evening. I think what I'd like to say here tonight is that we very much appreciate the cooperation and the collaboration of the various agencies that are involved in this initiative. I think that the availability of resources and expertise and experience is very much to our advantage. And despite the unfortunate events that have occurred in places, and one of those is the necessity to evacuate, I think we're getting the very best advice that we can get, and that I have every confidence that advice is effective and is answering the need that we have. That's really all I wanted to say.
Mayor Don Andenberg from the town of Pincher Creek will now say a few words.
And good evening, everybody. This community hasn't been impacted like some of our neighbors, Cardston County, MD, Pincher Creek, Waterton Park, but we're very much part of this simply because we're the service center for the area, and a lot of stuff is staged out of here. So the evacuation process came here. The MD Pincher Creek and ourselves are involved in Pincher Creek Emergency Services Commission, which is a unified fire ambulance operation, and we've done that for a number of years. We're also involved in Emergency Management Agency with Cowley, the MD of Pinch Creek, and ourselves. So coordinating, working together has been really important through all this. Last night it was pretty scary. Midnight, 1 o'clock. Looked like the town of Pinch Creek may be fully involved in this event also. Right at the moment, looks more favorable. That could certainly change, but we have developed a plan to evacuate the rest of the MD residents in the south if need be, and a plan to evacuate the town of Pinch Creek if need be, and hopefully we don't get to that point, but that's in place. Our citizens should know that, and it's not just our citizens now, it's a lot of people from our neighboring communities of Waterton, Waterton, MD, maybe some from Cardston even, and Blood Tribe, and a lot of people come this way. So I think we've really worked well together. The support's tremendous. The province, the support we're getting from the province and the input is great. We have a lot of good mutual aid partners in the south, and they've come to our aid also, and thank you for that. So with that, I'll close out my comments, and thanks everybody for what you've done.
And now I'll call upon Reeve Jim Bester from Cardston County to say a few words.
Thank you. It's been a rocky 24 hours, actually not even 24 hours since we declared the state of emergency, and we had certain trigger points that we needed to do that with. We feel very fortunate today, we really do, and I certainly want to thank our staff and the provincial folks that have come down and helped us get through the night. We're not out of the woods yet, and I want to appeal to the citizens of our county and our neighboring counties and MDs here. Please, we've had drought for a long time. This isn't the only thing that can happen to us now. It's been so dry out there. We'd ask you to cooperate with us. Stay out of the, no more rubbernecking and things like this. Stay out of the areas that cause more harm to other peoples. And we appreciate the support of our fellow. We're all one family here. We're very blessed where we live and the opportunities that we have. And so we'll get through this. We don't know just exactly how it's going to end yet, but it's going to end okay. And thanks.
Thank you. That concludes the statements and comments initially, and now what we'd like to do is open the floor to questions. So we have time for 4 or 5 questions. We do need everyone to get back to what they're doing, but let's start with some questions related to the operations themselves, specific fire questions if there are any. So are there any questions here? We do have microphones as well, so if you'd like to ask a question, go ahead. And please identify yourself and your news outlet.
1, 2, 1, 2. Hi, so I'm Geneviève Normand from CBC, the French Services. So my question is, what is the current size of the fire and where is the most significant growth?
Okay, and we'll have someone from Wildfire Information answer that question. So the question was the size and growth of the fire.
I don't have a current size on the fire. We were actively working on the fire all day. For us to take a ship away from actively working and try to measure a perimeter is not something that we would probably do right at this point. We're more interested in getting that fire under control, so I don't have an accurate size for you. I can tell you that the new fire that spilled over the Alberta border this morning into the Castle area is about 500 hectares in that section. We had an air tanker on that fire this morning at up until 9:30 when the smoke got too bad. We had a heavy helicopter working on it until the wind got too bad. And then we had medium helicopters bucketing on that throughout the day until dark tonight. The air tankers were actively flying on the eastern side of the fire in the MD of Pincher and for Cardston County. They flew in a continuous circuit all day. There were 4 CL-215s and an Electra, 2 bird dogs. They worked constantly all day today, and they were supplemented by helicopters bucketing on the larger area of the fire. I know the Premier this morning said the fire was about 20,000 hectares, but I don't have an updated size as for tonight.
Sorry to interrupt, but on the latest Parks Canada update, it was saying 33,000 hectares. So you can't confirm that?
I don't have an accurate number.
Okay.
Are there any other wildlife fire questions?
What the status of Glenwood and Hill Spring might be over there?
Those are out in the municipal district, so sure.
Just let people know who are on the line, who you are. Good.
Jim Bester, Riva Carson County. Glenwood and Hill Spring, you're talking about, there are 2 villages within our county. We have 2 towns, McGrath and Carson, and the 2 villages. Currently, the 2 villages are not in the evacuation zone, and we can't tell till tomorrow where the wind is taking it. But we're very hopeful, and they're much a support system for us there too. There are certainly 2 concentrated areas. But tomorrow morning, I can give you a better answer for that.
Kevin Green with CTV.
Okay.
Calgary. Both of your first 2 speakers, the gentleman from Wildfires and the park superintendent, made mention of buildings within the town site that were damaged by fire. I'm interested to know which buildings in particular within the town site were damaged.
Okay, well, I'll have the park superintendent, and he'll start.
So everything is telling us that the town site has been unaffected. The only building that has been reported as in the town site is the visitor center. Technically, it's not in the town site, but it's immediately adjacent to it. That building was destroyed, but we're still doing an assessment, and we need to be able to finish that assessment before we have a firm sort of determination of what may have happened. But every indication is that in the town site the town site is intact.
All right, another question from the back. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, my name is Jill Croteau, and I'm from Global News.
Okay.
I know that you don't have a scope. You're not able to measure what is burned. But how do you characterize it? Is it under control? Is it still out of control? How quickly is it burning? Like, we just want a better sense of the immediate status now.
Okay, I'll call upon Leslie to speak to that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have an answer to the previous question, which is the 33,000 hectares that you spoke about is on the most recent map that we have. So my apologies, I didn't have that one. The fire is out of control. It's still classified as out of control, and it will probably remain out of control for some time until we see significant change in the fire behavior. The fire behavior yesterday was extraordinary. It was very aggressive. We were working with extreme winds, we had very low humidity, and we had warm temperatures. Today, the fire behavior is less aggressive because of the weather. You can feel it out there. The humidity feels a little bit higher. It's a little bit cooler out there. The winds weren't as strong as they were predicted to be today, which is all great things for us. There was also a lot of smoke out there. In most cases, smoke is bad. We talk about it for health and for restricting visibility on air ops. But in this case, the smoke was actually working to our advantage. It acted as a little hood or a little vent or a little cover over top of the fire. And that helped the behavior settle down just a little bit. So we didn't experience the aggressive fire behavior that we experienced yesterday. What's going to happen overnight, we don't know. But going into it, it's a little bit calmer than it was last night, and we hope that it's going to stay that way overnight. We're expecting a bit of a downturn with the weather. It started to rain, a little precip a little bit further north, so as that edges down to us, I think we're going to be in a better situation as well.
Any more questions regarding fire? Yes, we have one over there.
Regarding Alberta Emergency Management Agency,
Yes.
there's been critics over, like, we've heard critics that there's been some delays with the alerts, and so people were not able to get the latest information. So I was wondering if someone could speak up about what happened and why those alerts were not out as fast as they
Okay.
should have been.
I don't know if we have someone who can address that here. We can see. There may be someone in the back of the room. I don't know.
Sorry, Scott?
Yes.
So that is being answered now at
Okay.
the Digital Operations Center. They're looking into it, and they're gonna have an answer back through the, I think through the minister.
Okay.
By tonight sometime.
Okay. So that. Thank you for your question regarding the Alberta emergency alerts. We are working toward an answer on that. We heard the question earlier today, and we will have a response for you shortly.
This is regarding the wildfire.
This is yes.
The incident commander spoke about damage to structures on the rangeland. Can he talk about which structures were damaged there?
Okay. We'll call upon Scott Elliott to speak to that.
Yeah, the structures I was referring to was in consultation with our partner here, Dave Cox, who was talking to me about that.
You'll see that now that we're in unified command, we kind of speak as a team. We've identified several structures within the MD, and Carson County also had some damage. We are still in the process of doing that assessment, and while we do have damage, I don't have specific numbers, so I'm not going to speculate on that number.
Can you say if it's homes or if it's?
It's going to be a combination of homes and outbuildings and agricultural fences, possibly some winter feed, and then in the ranch land you're going to have damage to pasture, pretty much typical of any type of wildfire that runs in our area.
Okay, another question here. Go ahead.
François Joly from also from French CBC.
Okay.
It's a question concerning the management of the evacuation zone. Going there today, we saw a lot of trucks carrying cattle, horses, animals. I don't know if I think we have someone from the RCMP or someone else could tell us if people were allowed in today at some point to go and grab cattle and other animals.
Okay. Are you able to speak to that, Corporal? Or would someone else like to come forward with an answer? We're just...
I'll track down.
Sure. Okay. It'll just be a moment for that one. I'll tell you what. In the meantime, are there any other questions not related specifically to the fire? Questions of a more general nature. Okay.
Well, if I'm...
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'd be curious to know if you've actually had a chance to do an assessment of how this has impacted the wildlife. I mean, Waterton's well known for its wildlife, right? Isn't that-
There seems to be quite a number of deers. I don't know if it's
Okay.
normal.
So the question is regarding wildlife and the impact of the fire on it, and we'll ask for the superintendent.
So right now we're still managing an active fire in the park, and that's the focus of all our efforts. Once that starts to get under control or get contained, then we can start looking at sort of the regular work that we would do, and we'll have a better sense of all of the impacts related to wildfire. As a rule, the wildlife are very good at avoiding these sorts of events. They're very effective at it, and there are large parts of the park and areas adjacent to the park where they can go to safely. But we'll know better with time once we get a chance to start moving away from fire operations and into more regular operations.
Speaking about the complaint that some evacuees had, I know we've asked this, but not asking for a specific map of the exact position of the fire, but what those people were saying is, we just want to know where the tipping point of the fire is. Why is maybe you don't have the answer, but why is it it took so much time to have the information of exactly where was the northern end of the fire?
Okay. Would anyone is anyone able to speak to that particular question? Okay. Sure. Okay. We'll call on the MD of Pincher Creek, Chief.
So as the fire evolved last night with its run, you have to understand this is in the dark and really heavy smoke levels. So At points, we had visibility down to feet as opposed to more. We knew that it had extended out of the park and into the MD of Pincher Creek, out of the MD of Pincher Creek into the MD or County of Cardston. But from that at night, it's impossible to really ascertain where it was at.
Okay, we're still tracking down an answer for one of those questions. Are there any other questions while we wait?
Yeah, I've just got a follow-up question. There was some suggestion from some of the ranchers sort of on the perimeter of this thing that there was a fire that was burning on the BC side that was only about 15 hectares in size. Like they had mentioned the Flathead Valley and Sage Pass. And there was a suggestion that it was out of Alberta's jurisdiction, so they couldn't go put that fire out. But a lot of people are suggesting that had BC tackled that fire on that side, that it wouldn't have got out of control and spread to the point where it was at last night.
So your question then is?
Well, can that be verified? Was there, a smaller fire that Alberta crews just couldn't get at?
Okay, well, I'm not certain. So, is there a response we can provide at this time?
I don't like to say that I don't have an answer, but I don't. We would have to go back and talk to BC Wildfire and see what was happening on that side of the border. I can't speak to it with any authority on that one. Sorry.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming. We will endeavor to get an answer for you on that one question. But what we'll do now at this point is we'll wind it up so that our folks can get back to what they were doing. And thank you very much for attending. So that does conclude this media availability.